Hey, so I just built an AI agent to automate your competitor research. So this agent is going to spy on your competitor's LinkedIn and then send you a weekly research report. And it's going to include things like any pricing changes to their products, any new features or product drops, and any funding rounds or new hires. So obviously we built this in n8n. It runs weekly on autopilot, and there's no more manual research for your competitors. All right, let me just show you how it works. So we're going to execute workflow, and I'll explain what's going on in the background. It's going to search a Google Sheet to get a list of your updated competitors. Then what we're doing is we're using Apify to go out and scrape recent LinkedIn posts from your competitors. Then once Apify is done, we're going to clean up a little bit of that output, and then we're going to send it to our first AI node, which is going to take a look at all of those LinkedIn posts and filter out the noise. Basically, it's only going to look at things that we actually care about, like funding rounds or new features. Then we're going to send that output to another AI node, which is actually going to perform the analysis. So it's going to break down the LinkedIn posts and then give us a breakdown of what's going on with that company recently. Then we're going to send it off to a different AI node, which is going to format that output nicely for an email and then send us an email. So when I hop into my Gmail, I can see I have my competitor analysis report sent to me every single week. You can see we've got our weekly competitive digest. So in our example here, we're looking at Gumloop. And again, it's going to look at the messaging and positioning. It's going to look at any recent launches and any recent fundraising or customer announcements. And we're doing this in this example for 4 competitors. So we've got this for Lindy, we've got it for Zapier, and we've got it for n8n as well. So this is a great way to keep an eye out on your competitors, what they've been up to week after week without doing any manual work. By the way, if you want to grab this template completely for free, be sure to check out the link below my video to my free school community. We've got a growing community here. There's over 1,000 members in here now. And what you do is you just go into the classroom and then you just find the YouTube video that you're watching right now and you download the n8n template and then upload it into your workspace. So again, if you want to grab this template for free and join 1,000 other folks who are learning AI agents and AI automations, be sure to check out the link below the video. All right, so let's talk about the game plan, and then I'll click into each of these nodes in n8n to explain what's going on. So we're starting this with a schedule trigger. So the idea is, you want to keep an eye on your competitors maybe once a week to see what's going on with them. So we're going to run this once per week. And then at the top, we're going to use Apify to scrape LinkedIn to bring in the latest posts on your competitors' LinkedIn profiles. Once that's done, we're going to pipe in that output from Apify into an AI node here. And we're basically asking it to say, hey, can you ignore all of the noise and only extract the things that we care about, like funding rounds, feature releases, and maybe any new partnerships. Then we're going to take that output, send it to another AI node, and ask it to perform the analysis that you saw here in my Gmail, right? So we're going to analyze the launches, any funding, any messaging and positioning. And then finally, we're just going to clean up that analysis for the email. So we're going to format it and then send it off to Gmail. So to get started, you do need a free Apify account, and you'll just need a Google Sheet to run this out of. All right, let's talk about the trigger first. So you can decide how often you want to run this, right? I think once per week makes sense, but you're going to add a scheduled trigger to kick off. And you can see when I open this, I'm doing days between trigger, 7 days, and then we're going to run this at 9 a.m. every 7 days. So that's how we're going to kick this off. Now, what you need to do, it's very easy to set up, is it's going to go into a Google Sheet. So you want to add a Google Sheet node, read the sheet, and let me open this up. So this operation is a get row for Google Sheet, and it's a very, very simple Google Sheet with just 2 columns. So you want to create a Google Sheet that has a list of your competitors. So I'm including the competitor URL to the website, and then importantly, also their LinkedIn URL. So you can see I've got Gumloop, Lindy, Zapier, and n8n here as my competitors. So you want to set up that Google Sheet, because again, you're going to do a Google Sheet node here to get rows. And then from the document list, you want to select your Google Sheet. So mine's competitor research agent. I've got sheet 1, and then you can see when I click on execute step, it's going to show that I'm going to get all 4 items. So when you run this node, your output should look like this. It should include all of your competitors, right? So you can see I've got 4 competitors here. I've got the competitor URL and the LinkedIn URL. All right, so now that we have our company LinkedIn profile URLs, we're going to use Apify to go out and scrape the content from their LinkedIn. So if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with Apify. It's basically a collection of really cool scrapers that you can use. And you can scrape almost anything from Pinterest to TikTok to Instagram to Google Maps to LinkedIn. So again, you do need a free account, and you can see I'm on a free account, although my usage is almost up here. And what you want to do is go to the Apify store and search for LinkedIn company. You don't have to do all caps. And then the one that we want here is this yellow one by API Maestro called LinkedIn Company Post Scraper No Cookies. So it's this one right here with 667 users. All right, so once you click into that, you're gonna come to a screen that looks like this. And we wanna do a couple of things here. So you can see I'm in this manual setup right now. So the first thing that you want to do is just enter any dummy LinkedIn company URL. It makes sense if you do one from your actual sheet here. So you can see I've entered the Gumloop one. Now we're going to change this later on because we don't want this hard coded in, but I want you to enter some company LinkedIn in this field right over here. Page number you can leave alone. And then under advanced options, this is where you're going to want to choose, how many LinkedIn posts do you want to grab from the company each time this runs. So if you're running this once per week, how many posts do you want to grab from their LinkedIn page? I think most companies probably publish at most once per day. So you can decide on that, but let's say for the result limit, we'll do 7, right? So that assumes each company is going to post 1 time per day. So that's under advanced options. For result limit, I'm going to put 7. And then in terms of settings, that's really all that you need. All right, now that that's configured, we're going to hop back into n8n, although we're going to come back to Apify. But I want you to go back to n8n, and after your Google Sheet, add a new node. And what you want here is the HTTP request node. So click on that. And then when you open this up, you can rename this. I renamed mine to Get LinkedIn Posts, right? And we need to do a couple of things here. If you're a non-coder, don't worry. It's actually quite easy. So the first thing that you want to do is change your method here to post. All right. So what we need to do then is fill in this URL under post. So where do you get the URL from? Well, Apify makes it really easy. So we're going to go back to Apify, go back to your LinkedIn company post scraper with your settings configured. And then what you want to do is just click on this Apify dropdown, select API endpoints, the API dropdown, select API endpoints. And what you want to grab here is this third one, run actor synchronously and get data set items. So what this is going to do, and you can see we have the post method here. This is the URL that you want. And by the way, it includes your token or your API key automatically in the URL. So you want to just copy that to your clipboard, go back into n8n, and I already have mine posted here. But in the URL field, you just want to paste in that URL. Okay, for authentication, we're going to leave none. And then what we want to do next is we want to turn on this send body, okay? And once you've done that, for body content type, if it's not already selected, you want to select JSON. And then for specify body, you want to change that to using JSON. And then your field is going to look blank right now, but we need to paste something into this field right here. And we need to paste it in as an expression, right? So what do we put in this field? And let me just open this up, okay? So what we want to put in here is we're going to grab this from Apify. So if you go back to Apify, just X out of here. Now again, we've been operating in this manual tab, but what you want to do is just switch over to JSON, and then you want to grab this little bit of code right here, right? Just these 4 lines. So let me copy this to my clipboard. Go back to n8n. You can see I was pulling in 15 posts, but we can change that. So let me just clear this out, and I'm going to paste that in like this. Now, we do need to change one thing. Remember, we hard-coded in Gumloop as the URL right here, but we don't want to have a hard-coded URL. We want n8n to run this for all of the LinkedIn URLs that are in our sheet. So we need to change that, and we need to add a variable in here, right? So again, in company name, in between these quotes right now is just the gumloop URL. I want you to delete that. So leave those two quotes. And what you're going to want to drag in from n8n in the Google Sheet node is this LinkedIn URL field. So drag that in right between the two quotes. And now you can see that gumloop is going to auto-populate over here because we're using the variable, okay? So we're grabbing the company name variable from this field in Google Sheets, and now your JSON code looks good, right? It should just look like this. It's got the variable from the LinkedIn URL. It's got the limit that you set. In our example, we have 7. So we can pop out of here. You know, I'm at risk of running out of Apify usage, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to run this right now. But what your output should look like, and I ran this before, is something like this. This is the output you're looking for. I'm in the JSON view here. It's all of this output from LinkedIn that's coming from Apify, okay? So it should look something like this on my screen. In terms of the setup, in terms of the HTTP node, that's all you need to do. So we can click out of there and hit save. All right, so when you look at this output from Apify for LinkedIn, there's a bunch of information and a bunch of information that we don't need, right? For example, in our flow, we don't really care about the thumbnail, like what the image is. So there's a bunch of that information in here that we just want to get rid of. What we really care about is just the company, like who is the company posting on LinkedIn and what is the actual text of the post, right? That's what we're going to base our analysis on. What are they posting on LinkedIn? So how do we clean this up to get only the output that we want? So what we want to add next after your Apify get LinkedIn posts is a code node. So if you go into your n8n nodes and just search for code, don't worry, ChatGPT did all of this for me. I do not know how to code, but you want to add a code node, which is this one right here. Add it after that Apify node. Now let me just open this up and let me just show you what's going on. So on the left side of our screen is all of that nasty output from Apify on LinkedIn. And what you're going to see on the right side of my screen is a much cleaned up version of that. You can see I've got 4 items, so 1 item for each company. Remember, I've got Gumloop, Lindy, Zapier, and n8n. And what this output is going to include is just the company LinkedIn URL and the posts themselves, right? So all of the posts coming in that we scraped, and it's nested or it's all tagged under the company, right? So we've got the company, n8n, and then all of their posts, right? We've got the company, Gumloop, and then all of their posts, right? So how do we clean that up? We're doing it with this code node. Now, again, this template is available in my community if you want to grab all of this code. I did not write the code. I just asked ChatGPT, hey, how do I clean up this Apify output? I only care about the company URL and the actual post. So in the code node for mode, you want to do run once for all items, leave JavaScript on. And then it's this bit of code right here. It's 27 lines that I piped in here from ChatGPT, and it gave me the output. So when you hit execute step, your output should look like the number of items should match the number of companies that you fed in at the beginning. So you can see I have 4. And then under the company should be all of their posts that we scraped from LinkedIn, okay? So that's the code node. Again, you can grab this code inside of my school community. And again, once you execute step, your output should look something like this. All right, now that we have our cleaned up LinkedIn post, and by the way, I did just run this again on Apify, and now I've pinned it here to get fresh data. But once we have our clean LinkedIn post, the next step here, and the next bucket that you can see is we want to identify newsworthy stuff, right? Because sometimes companies post on LinkedIn things that we don't really care about, right? So we only want to pull in, again, stuff around funding, stuff around new feature releases, maybe acquisitions, things like that. So that's what this section of the automation is all about. And then what we're using for this first is an LLM chain. So that's the node that you're going to want to put on. Just search for basic LLM chain, and that's what this is here. So let me just open this up and show you what we're doing in here. All right, so I've renamed this to identify announcements. There's a couple things going on here. It looks very busy, but it's really just a couple of prompts. So the first thing that we want to do is the source for prompts. You want to change yours to define below. And then we're going to add a user message. And all we're doing here, and let me expand this, and I have this as an expression. So I'm just feeding in 2 bits of information. Number one, and I'm grabbing it from this clean li post node, the code node before. The first thing is the company, okay? So the AI knows what company it's talking about, and that's this field right here, and you can see it populate over here. So that's the first variable that I'm dragging in to the user message. And then the second is the actual post output, which is this field right here, this post. All right, and you can see how that populates below is all of the LinkedIn post, in this example from Gumloop, okay? So that's the user prompt. Again, it's the LinkedIn URL and it's all of the post content from the previous note. And then below that, what you want to do is add a system prompt, okay? So I've got mine on system, and then I'm not going to be able to read this whole thing. Again, grab the template for free in the link below. So ChatGPT wrote this prompt, by the way, and what we're asking it to do is just extract the stuff that we care about. Again, pricing changes, new products, acquisition, major hiring, funding, those things. So the AI is looking for that stuff, and it's going to ignore any stupid posts like thought leadership or memes or bug fixes or things like that, okay? And then we're going to specify the output that we want. So we want one JSON object with a single key called announcements. And then under that, we want, product launches, feature launches, pricing, hiring, those things, right? So that's going to be my system prompt. And again, I ran this just now. And what your output should look like when you click on execute step, again, what's key here is the number of items. You want to get 1 item per company. And then you can see what the JSON output looks like, right? So you can see we've got announcements, and then the type is feature launch, and then we've got a title here, and then we've got a description. And then the next one, again, type is product launch. We've got the title. We've got the description. So make sure the output for your LLM chain looks like this. Now, one thing I should have mentioned at the beginning is that when you choose an LLM chain, or when you put the node onto your canvas, n8n is going to prompt you to select a chat model. So I'm using Claude 3.7 Sonnet. You can use whatever chat model you want, but this part of the node is required. All right, so this output looks good, but it's still just string. We need to add another code node to convert this into real JSON. So what you want to do is, again, in your node library, just search for code and then add this code node after your identify announcements node. And let me open this one up. So this one I renamed to clean announcements. And again, we're pasting in a little bit of JavaScript below. 100% I got this from ChatGPT. Again, this will be in my template, but once you run this code, what you're going to get on the output here is structured JSON that we can just pipe in through the rest of our automation, right? So we've got the type, feature launch, we've got the title, MCP workflows for Gumloop, and we've got a description here. And again, make sure that your items matches the number of companies that you're running through. But you can see how clean this JSON is right here. And once you're done with that node, we're done with the second part of this automation, which is identifying the announcements. And now what we want to do is we're going to go to a new section here, which is going to analyze the announcements. We're going to use AI to actually do the in-depth analysis that is going to produce the output that I showed earlier. All right, so to do that, we're going to add another basic LLM chain to your dashboard. So make sure you click on that node here and just drag it down here. And again, to select your model, I'm just using Anthropic Claude 3.7. So once you've got your model selected, click into the node itself. I've just named mine analysis. And again, same thing. We've got a user message prompt, and then we've got a longer system message prompt. So let me open up the user prompt here. So again, I'm going to feed it in from the previous node, the company, which right now is just a number placeholder, which is fine. We're going to take care of that later on in the automation. And then after that, we're going to feed it this announcements JSON, right? Which is coming from this field over here. But when you drag that in on its own, you can see it just gives us a bunch of objects down here at the bottom. So I had ChatGPT fix this expression so that it looks like this. Again, this will be in the template, but you can see now on the output, what we have here is we're piping in the data from the last node, which includes the type, the title, and the description. And so let's click out of here. And now we're going to go down to add a system message prompt here. And let me open up this one. Again, this is all from ChatGPT as well, right? So it's saying you are a senior market analyst preparing a weekly competitive research brief. We're going to tell it what its input is, its task, and then how to kind of structure the output here. So you can see we want it formatted here where we have current position and messaging. We've got recent major product releases, and we've got recent funding or customer announcements. Again, ChatGPT generated this entire prompt for me. And when you click execute step, what you're going to get is an output that looks like this, right? Again, this is a big string of text that's formatted the way that we asked it to. So we're going to add another code step here to transform this string into actual JSON. So again, just going back to the prompt, you can see there's nothing here for the company. So right now, we don't actually know what content from LinkedIn is associated with which company. And so what we're going to do is add another code node over here. So again, one more code node. So let me just open up this, and I have this as tag company. And what this is going to do, and you can see in the output here, is it's going to match each AI analysis with the correct row from Google Sheets and then kind of package it together. So it's going to add a company field here and then a source field, which is LinkedIn, so that each output is labeled for the next steps, right? So you can see here now company is Lindy, company is Zapier, company is n8n. So that's what this code node is doing. I'm going to repeat myself. You can either screenshot this code or grab the template from inside of school. But when you execute on this step, you should see an output that looks like this. Again, I've got 4 items for 4 companies, and now I've got my company URL, and I've got the source here is LinkedIn, which goes along with the analysis that we did earlier. All right, so we have 4 items, but again, we're gonna wanna send an email to ourselves once a week that includes the digest for every single company, right? We don't want 4 emails. We want 1 email with every company. So in order to do that, we're going to add an aggregate node here after our tag company code node. So the aggregate node here, I've got it set up to aggregate on individual fields. For the input field name, what I dragged in here was this analysis LinkedIn from the previous code node. So it's this field right over here. I did rename this field to analysis. And then when you hit execute step, what we're going to get and what we want is 1 item, right? So this is the analysis for each company combined into 1 item, okay? So once that is done, we're almost finished, right? We just want to email the report to ourselves. Before we do that, I do want to format the report nicely. And so we're going to use another LLM chain right here. So again, just search for LLM chain, and you want the basic LLM chain. For your model, I'm going to use Anthropic 3.7 again. And so when you open up this node, again, we're going to have a user message prompt. And again, for source for prompt, you're going to want to change this to define below. For the user prompt, all I'm doing is saying analysis, and then I'm pumping in the analysis. So this field right here, right? So this is to provide the context to the model of what I'm about to prompt it with the system prompt. So this is the full analysis for each company that we did earlier. Now I am going to tick on require specific output format. So make sure that's ticked on. We'll talk about that in a second. But below, I want to talk about the system prompt here that I added. So let me just open this up. And again, this was generated fully by ChatGPT. I do believe that AI is the best prompt generator. And so again, I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I'm saying you're going to receive 1 bundle that contains an array called analysis. Each element has a company, the positioning, the launches, the product releases. And so we're saying the task is to produce a single Gmail-ready markdown document titled Weekly Competitive Digest, which you'll see is over here. And then we've just got kind of the breakdown of the email, right? So we've got the company name, and then we've got messaging and positioning, recent launches, and recent fundraising, okay? Again, check out the prompt inside of school. Now, prompting is set up, and let's go back to the node here. And I did add a structured output parser over here. So if I open up the structured output parser, I've got generate from JSON example. And again, this came directly from ChatGPT. This is just going to tell the model to return 1 JSON object whose single field email markdown contains the full ready to send email in markdown form. So that's the structured output parser that's attached here to this basic LLM chain. And now finally that we have our analysis, we've got it formatted for Gmail, you're just going to add a Gmail node here. So search for Gmail, and the one that you want here is to send a message. So this one over here. And once you've got that connected to the previous node, just open this up, and this is very simple, right? You need to connect your Gmail account, of course. Operation is send. We're going to send it to ourselves. You can have the subject, whatever you want. The email type is going to be text. And then for the message itself, right, you want to be in expression, and you want to drag in the field from the previous node, which is this email markdown. So your field should turn green and look like this. And if we open this up, we can see here is the actual email that's going to be sent to our Gmail based on the markdown output from the previous step. And once you've got that connected, you can just click on execute step, and then you can see we've got a successful email. So if I hop back into my Gmail, here is the one that was just sent, right? We've got our competitor analysis, the weekly competitive digest. We've got each company. We got the messaging and positioning, the recent launches, recent fundraising. All of this scraped automatically from LinkedIn, auto-researched, formatted nicely, sent to you directly once per week so you can keep an eye on your competition. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And let me know what you want to see me build out next.